got this from the cornucopia. Let's see. Oh, camouflage. Nice. You guys are all stupid. They're gonna be looking for teenagers dressed up in jumpsuits. No one's gonna be looking for a clown. Okay, so The Hunger Games is finally here. After months of waiting, finally got to saw the movie last night at midnight. Excellent showing, a whole lot of enthusiasm in the theater, which is just great. But for this review, where do I even begin? There is so much to say. There's a lot to talk about, especially for people who've read the book, and so have I. It's going to be difficult to sum up my feelings on this movie because I've only seen it once, and I'm going to go see it again very soon, so that I can, you know, more get a grasp on what things I did and didn't like, because I am right now very split on this movie. First off, I'd just like to say, as a big compliment to the movie, for someone who read the books, and even for anybody who is anticipating the movie, that it is an extremely entertaining spectacle, and for that, it deserves a lot, because it was just, as far as being, you know, an action movie and just being an entertainment piece, it succeeds extremely well and is something fantastic to be awed at, as far as just something that's totally epic. And my overall rating and sum up of the movie, they aren't going to be based on things related to the book, because I don't think it's fair to judge a book by its movie either way, back and forth. There was one recurrent thing that really threw me off about this movie, and it took away some of the most fantastic things about the movie that were really done well for just being a film and also being an adaptation. There were things that were just so very well done that were ruined by this one thing, or I guess it would be a conjunction of things. Like, the performances all around were really great, and the writing was actually very well adapted from the book. All the actors put a lot of effort, the direction was pretty interesting, the set pieces were fantastic, the visuals amazing, but the thing that really muffles it, and I'm gonna say the editing, and I don't mean the editing as in, like, when there's an action scene, you know, sometimes you can't see what's going on. That was just part of the style, but I mean in the sense that the movie just doesn't fit together in a lot of points, because it does feel very rushed. And I'm not saying the problem overall is with the pacing, because I felt like the movie was actually paced pretty well. I didn't feel bored ever, but almost like lines given by the actors seems like they're rushing through them, or they're almost like the audio and video is enhanced to be moving faster, just get through certain scenes. And it's really annoying because it destroys certain characters like Cinna, who, if you read the books, you know, he's probably one of your favorite characters because Cinna is just awesome. He is one of the few, like, really genuine people you meet, and you even get that from the movie because Lenny Kravitz does play a very good Cinna. He's definitely exactly what the character is supposed to be, and even adds his own uniqueness to it. The problem is that they're, like, when they introduce his character, that they, like, rush that entire scene. I get it, the book's about 370 some odd pages, and you have to shove that into about 2 hours and 20 minutes, and I think they actually even made it pretty long. I was expecting them to cut more off. I don't know if I was just getting that sense from the first time I saw it, and hopefully that will change the next time I see it, but I really felt like things were just flying by that really... And the thing that disrupts the most, that'd be okay if they did it well, but here's where the problem comes from, probably what could have been the biggest plague to the movie, and they work out fairly well for the most part, but this is where it disrupts that, and that is the lack of narrative by Katniss. The book is in first person as it's occurring, and she's describing everything. So if you read the books, you know pretty much what she's thinking, but you lose, and it's not even, in fact, they do a good job of explaining the backstory that you don't have from her narrative, but there is a lot of things that, without a narrative, because they couldn't have put a narrator in here, would have thrown off the pacing a lot, and you know, that's fine. It destroys subtlety, because instead of using nuance or little clues, they just make everything really, really overt as a makeup for not having Katniss there to explain things to us. And I feel like it's not only a detriment to the audience, but it's also like they're underestimating our powers to, you know, draw a conclusion between what two characters are saying. And there are things that are just so overt and in your face because they don't use the subtleness of a narrative. I know that the narrative isn't there. They really didn't need to make things so overblown. A little bit, maybe, but that's the problem with rushing through it, is they don't have time to use little subtleties. They have to just throw it at you, and I know that's because they want to get into the games, and there is a fair amount of exposition that occurs before that, because the games are the main part, and they do that very well. But the thing is, this movie jumps around from times where I'm thinking like, wow, they could not have done this better. This was fantastic. Specifically little montage scenes where they really draw out some emotion. With the score and just the beautiful set pieces. They do an amazing job of capturing the desolation in District 12 and the stark comparison to that in the Capitol. But at the same time, there are times where it's ridiculous how poorly they execute some things, and hopefully that changes. Hopefully I'm just getting that from the first time around. But it was weird going back and forth, and overall I did really like this movie. Jennifer Lawrence is amazing as Katniss. She really carries this movie so well, and that's what every single performance is great. I mean, Liam Hemsworth doesn't get a lot of showtime, and I don't really particularly like Gale's character overall, but I think he was really good. I mean, Josh Hutcherson definitely proved himself to be a good Peeta. But then there were these other performances like Stanley Tucci as Caesar Flickerman, who just is so perfect for that character and does it so well. And Elizabeth Banks has to be one of my favorite parts of this movie because she is so great at the comic relief, and I knew she was going to... Apparently she's a big fan of the Hunger Games, which is great, because she's one of the few people that, really pulls off the Capitol accent that, she picked up from the small little things from the book. And she is just so fantastic at being this person who's just so ignorant that you can't hate them for saying stupid things and just being an idiot. And Elizabeth Banks does that so perfectly, and that contrast with Haymitch, who is played fantastically by Woody Harrelson. I had to say that was some of the best casting they did throughout the entire movie. Even I pictured Haymitch as a lot different. Woody Harrelson really pulls it off, and they even get rid of a couple of the things that I did not care for about Haymitch's character in the book. So in that sense, I mean, when they take things out like that, and even the same thing with Peeta, I felt like they didn't focus as much on the love relationship as people were saying. They're like, oh, even more than the book, they're going more for the lovey-dovey thing. And I don't think that. I think they put the romance in there just, that wasn't even my problem. I thought they did that just fine. I didn't think it was too much or too little. So yeah, there were some things that they changed that worked out for a lot better. Really the only thing that happened to ruin the changes or the really good things is that it just felt like they were speeding through things and the lack of subtlety. Seneca Crane's character, played by Wes Bentley, very well done, is definitely much bigger than in the books, and I thought that was cool because you get a background look into the Hunger Games, which is another thing. They do break out of Katniss's narrative, like away from her first-person perspective, because it's not completely in her perspective, which is cool. You get to look at other things, but also at the same time, she looks at everything through very distorted eyes just because she's from a different setting. Yet again, I still thought it was really cool to get a background look into that, and the same thing goes with Donald Sutherland. President Snow, not in the book a lot. They definitely build up their characters more so he can be in the next movie. And they definitely prelude a ton to Catching Fire. People who don't get the book, or didn't read the movie. Didn't read the book. I've done that a couple times, said read the movie. Add a lot more to build up to the sequel, which I think is really good. I thought that, and those things were fantastic. Actually, one of my favorite parts of the movie is something they're preluding to for the next movie. If you've read Catching Fire already, watch out for those little things. And Willow Shield's really great as Prim. I want to talk about the tributes. Actually, Toby Jones, Claudius Temple, really cool. Like, every performance in here, really good. Amanda Stenberg as Rue. Rue is one of everybody's favorite characters, even if you just see the movies, just because she's so sweet and she's so innocent, and she's actually really badass. I felt like they did that very well done, very emotional, really, Amanda Stenberg really captures the shyness, but also really the bristlingness of her youth, and just, that was one of the best parts of the movie right there, and I think one of the biggest things that could have gone wrong and was just done perfectly. And the other tributes, specifically the ones from District 2, Alex Ludwig and Isabel Furman, who play Cato and Clove, they're the big other tributes, and I felt they were very good. They were very maniacal. All the tributes actually were really good, even the ones who are killed very fast. Jacqueline Emerson as Foxface. I mean, all were very good. But I'm just not, I feel like I'm just listing actors' names. So I'm going to talk about something that, you know, was one of the bigger things about this movie, and that was the brutality. I think a lot, people who bitch about the violence, shut up. I mean, seriously, have you seen the society we live in? We're totally cool with violence, real violence too. You know, not just in movies. And this isn't glorifying violence. This is a very startling look at how we are so entertained by violence. Almost in like a paradoxical, like ipso facto sort of way. I don't even know how to describe it. In the sense that it is a criticism on how entertained we are by violence, but we're so entertained by that criticism, which is so violent. You know, it loops around. But they do calm a lot of it down, and there was, I mean, not to an extent where it's like fluffy. There were parts where the careers are running through the woods like laughing and giggling, and I know they're supposed to not take it as seriously because they were trained for this and it's fun for them to kill people, but it felt like they were playing tag sometimes, like before they really started showing kills. When they first started with the cornucopia, it was very brutal, but then it doesn't feel like danger for a while, and that does come back, trust me, it does come back, and it is very brutal. I mean, there are times where people's heads are supposed to get bashed in, and their arrows through the neck, and they do change it up so it's not quite as gory. It does do enough amount of justice to Suzzanne Collins' book, and I don't think it's fair to really compare the two. I mean, yes, there is some unintentional humor, but I mean, regardless of whether it's, you know, you think it's good or bad material, you know, it is a ridiculously entertaining movie and such an epic spectacle that is awesome, enjoyable, a lot of fun if you're in a big theater with a bunch of fans, even for just that experience. But I mean, I think it's a good movie. It is great, but it misses the mark on amazing because of that, like, 1-2 issues I mentioned, and they just kind of invade the rest of the movie. But overall, it really does do justice to the novel, and, you know, don't have any worries. It is really good. I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10, probably the best movie of the year so far. So hungry, so thirsty, no 3G. Hey Mitch, I need a data plan. Must play draw something. Need.